So look what we have here. This ryegrass area in the last few days has started to look like an actual lawn. Now, when you get down in there, it is still kind of thin in some spots. It's only about 14 days old at this point, so I can't expect too much here, but man, I'm impressed that I can actually see some green. And the way that it's growing, I think we're gonna probably be mowing here in the next week or so at some point, and then we get to really have some fun. Today I'm out here to water this. It didn't get any water yesterday. I got out here and guess what? I forgot my keys. So I got out here and couldn't open the shipping container. That was dumb, but you know, so many things going on, it happens. So this didn't get any water yesterday. I'm not concerned about that. It really wasn't that dry when I got out here. So I will give it a good soaking, and then we're gonna look at those test plots today. I'm gonna show you how well those things are growing in and also take some of the straw blankets off. I don't think I need them anymore considering how it's growing in. Maybe I'll leave it on the bluegrass. We'll do some inspection to see how that bluegrass is looking. So this is pretty funny. One day I had the hose laying over here and it was just kind of leaking some water out as I watered that other section, and you can see where that all grew in just from that little bit of leaking of that hose right there. And there is some grass in this section right here, but it's pretty thin compared to where it got a lot more water. So I know this looks just kind of like a random bit of grass in a field, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this out around here, kind of around it, so that it looks like a nice squared off test plot area. I don't know if it'll necessarily be square, but it's going to look a lot cleaner. And then we are going to make, either with wood chips or something, we're going to make a driveway section right into here, so when we pull in here, we have some piles of rock over here and sand and all that, and that's just kind of extra stuff right now. So we want to be able to come in and get some of that stuff, but also come in and turn here if we need to, and just make this look a lot cleaner. So I know it looks kind of just random at this point, but there is a method to the madness. So we've been having trouble with this wiring because it's really thick gauge wire for that pump, and it just doesn't really, it's not flexible, so it doesn't really want to go in and out of the generator as much as I've been doing with it. So we're trying to get that fixed.
I mean, they're
tight. It's just once you start moving this around, it just loosens.
I'll just get them this far. You can tighten them. There's got to be a different design of plug that will be more resilient.
That's how tight I had it the other day, and it came loose.
I mean, they're not even moving.
No, but that, I mean, literally that's how tight I had it. And it worked perfectly until I tried to put that sleeve on. And then it gets all messed up somehow.
Well, it shouldn't, because the sleeve has nothing to do with the wires.
I know, but it makes the wire bend in order to get the sleeve. Once you put it in there, it makes it bend like when it turns.
Okay. Well, then we need a different design because we have to have the sleeve on for water protection.
Yeah, I know. I may have gotten a few sprinkles on it without there. I think that these can just come off. I'm gonna check the Kentucky bluegrass one and see if it needs to stay on for a little bit longer. But these are already, you can see the grass starting to push it.
Right.
So they need to come off so that it has room to grow.
So are we just end to end in the middle and trying to stay off of it and lift?
Yeah, I would say if we can stay off of it as much as possible.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna have to get those stakes, and this one doesn't have any in the middle, but the rest of those do.
Right.
Let's just start pulling stakes and then see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, so honestly, let's say I probably wasn't expecting it to go quite like this at this point. You know, I was seeding late into the year. At any point, it really could have changed to freezing weather. I really wasn't sure what was going to happen, but so far, look at this. So this is a perennial ryegrass right here. This is my stuff. Looks absolutely beautiful already, and it's growing like crazy. Over here on this side is the secret ryegrass. It's a little thinner at this point. Same seeding rate that I used on both of them, but this one is just slightly thinner at this point. It should mature and it should be totally fine as things get going, as long as any other major catastrophes don't happen. But then this is the fescue right here. This one is just slightly thin too, a little bit thin, but I did take off one side of the blanket because I wanted to be able to see what it looked like under there, and I made the decision to just keep that blanket down right now. The bluegrass ryegrass, the bluegrass is actually growing and the ryegrass in there, but that's a small amount. I'm gonna leave the blanket down on that section and the blanket down on these two. So this one right behind me is fescue bluegrass, and then that one is 100% bluegrass. Even the 100% bluegrass is germinating now. It's looking pretty good, but I do want to keep some cover on there yet until I make sure that it's growing really well and that I can take that off. So all in all, I'm very happy right now. And what we decided to do with these seeding blankets that we took off there is put them around here, because I did put a little bit of seed around the plots. I did some ryegrass around these plots so that hopefully I can have some grass there. And otherwise, if it doesn't come in, I was just gonna put in a weed barrier around this whole thing, and there will be weed barrier going through the middle of these plots so that next year these will be really sectioned off and you'll be able to tell everything that's going on. But I wanted some grass around the outside that was consistent, just so that you could kind of see the plots inside of there with the weed barrier in between, and then some grass around the outside. But it wasn't coming in very well because it wasn't getting consistent water and just sitting on top of the soil here. So we did put those seeding blankets down, and I might throw a little bit of an overseed of ryegrass over top of those blankets and see if I can get it to settle down in, and then see if I can just get anything growing before the end of the year around the outside of here. And if I don't, then next year I'll just go ahead with the weed barrier all the way around, and that'll be perfect. Got two sections that are doing really, really well over in this area. I kind of thought we were almost done with leaves because I was looking at that tree and then that one, and I looked up here and I was like, oh, not so much. Well, things just keep getting more exciting out here, because today I just got to do the first mow on this ryegrass section over here. Just over 2 weeks old. Say I'm at day 16 or 17 right now. And you can see how well it's filling in here. It's actually starting to look like a yard. There's still a lot of debris in here yet, so it's gonna take a couple of mows to kind of get through that old field stuff. Some of the straw that was there is left over from the old field, some of the weeds that were there. But there's a section right over here that's kind of thin. It's really bumpy over here. Some of the more clay-like material was left after we dug our well and got spread out right here. So that's gonna be a spot that needs an overseed at some point. It's still gonna fill in more than it is, but it is kind of bumpy and it is a little thin. So this fescue over here is not quite ready to mow. It is a little behind the ryegrass yet. It has come in, especially the last couple of days with sunlight. It's grown quite a bit more, but today, this over here, the Knorr ryegrass right here, is in need of a mow. This plot right there. There's the first mow on the ryegrass plot. This mow on this ryegrass plot. This one is definitely a lot thinner at this point. I mentioned that, but not sure exactly why. It was seeded at the same rate, but this one has come in a lot better on this side so far. Over here we have tall fescue. This one is growing pretty well. This one I have tall fescue and bluegrass, and I haven't really seen a lot of bluegrass in there that I can tell, But I need to look closely today because I really need to start mowing this soon because it's getting tall. But I don't want to do too much damage to the bluegrass, but it's kind of what you have to do when you have a bluegrass mixed into something. You're going to have to end up mowing it and just being as careful as possible because the other stuff grows so fast, especially if you have a rye or this tall fescue, and the blue is going to take a lot longer to come in. So looking at this closely, I think I will leave this fescue and the fescue bluegrass just probably a day or two longer. There are a lot of weeds coming into these plots, and it's not something that I'm surprised by whatsoever with it being tilled farm soil. What I'm seeing for the most part right now, I think looks to be a couple of annual plants that I hopefully will die off, or otherwise they looked like they might be a possibility of spraying those with some tenacity. So I'm not at that point yet though, where I would be doing any spraying, and most likely it's gonna get late enough into the season where I might have to let this go, see what comes back in the spring, and deal with the type of weeds that we have at that point. Hopefully it's something I can control and we don't have to do a whole big plot over and kill this off and get rid of everything, but that would be the worst case scenario. I don't foresee that happening at this point. I think I have the grass growing in thick enough that as soon as it starts to mature, it's gonna shade a lot of that stuff out too.
Feels like home. Feels like home.
Have you ever been driving down the highway, looking at the sunset? It'll make you forget all the troubles that...
Well, I don't even know what to say. Look at that. It rained an inch. Well, it must have been the fact that I finally got a rain gauge, because we haven't seen that kind of rain here in quite some time. But that is awesome because now I don't have to water for a couple days, and that'll be really nice. So I'm back out here at the test plots. I've given it a few days more just so that I can show you guys the progress of what's happened over the last couple weeks. So I don't even remember what day we're on right now, but I know that it is less than 3 weeks and more than 2 weeks. So somewhere in between there is where we're at right now. And for that amount of time frame, I'm pretty much blown away at this point by what things look like, because if you look out here now, it actually looks like a yard. If you look over here, there's quite a bit of grass. If you look over here, beautiful, beautiful over there. So it's starting to look like something, and this has drastically changed the landscape even of this little small spot in the past couple weeks, just because completely field, dirt, soil, nothing here, and now you come over this little ridge right over there, and you see grass, and you see plots, and you see a bunch of fun stuff down here. Let's take another look at these plots here. This is the ryegrass plot. This one right here is the straight tall fescue. And then today I just took the blankets off of these last two plots. So this was Kentucky bluegrass and ryegrass. And this one back here is straight Kentucky bluegrass. So that took quite a bit longer to germinate, and obviously you can see it hasn't grown in nearly as much, and I've mowed these other plots once now. I've mowed the ryegrass plots twice, and I've mowed the fescue plots once. This one right here is the fescue bluegrass. There's just a couple of pieces of bluegrass coming up in there that I noticed. Not a whole lot, because in 85-15, 15% is not a lot of bluegrass in there, but it's really just to get it to slightly thicken more than tall fescue on its own. And also, if you happen to have a few spots that you have some damage, it will help to fill those spots with the bluegrass. This is the other ryegrass plot right here, still looking a little bit thinner, but I have mowed the ryegrass plots twice now, and this one pretty much looks like a yard already. Very thick, it's growing very well. Starting to tiller out quite a bit already as well. So right now I mowed these at 2.5 inches, and that's just kind of to see where we're at for the rest of the season. I don't know if I'll be able to mow this Kentucky bluegrass this year or not. Definitely we're losing a lot of sunlight every day. It's getting dark around 6:15, somewhere around there, 6:30, starting to get kind of dark over here. They're not going to be growing all that much yet this season. But like I said, I really didn't expect this to be growing in quite this well at this point. It was kind of a gamble for me to do all that seeding when I did, but it paid off this year, and I'm looking forward to everything that's going to come with doing a whole bunch of work to these next year. And you'll be able to see everything the same throughout different parts of the season, different stresses that we might have, everything right next to each other. It's going to be really cool. A couple things also to mention with these blankets. Do they work? Absolutely they do. Are they kind of a pain if you leave them in place? I think they will kind of get stuck down to the ground, and then if you don't remove them now, then you kind of have to deal with it next year. And some people have said that they don't biodegrade very well in terms of that netting, and I have found that in some cases you have to kind of cut them out. But do they work? Absolutely. They get everything nice and held in place. I'll show you a spot where I had a blanket. So this is a spot right here where I had extended a piece of blanket out, And this was a spot right here that did not have any, and you can tell the major difference between the two. So definitely, if it's something where you're worried about washout or you need to get some extra moisture held in place and maybe you don't have ideal conditions for watering or whatever the case is, I would definitely consider those things. I will definitely do one more update on these before the end of the season, but that's the update right now. I'll also let you know if I do end up getting to mow the Kentucky bluegrass, but I want to thank you so much for watching this video. We'll see you next time.